When it comes to anime, it takes a whole lot of things to come together to make a really good show. You have voice acting, animation, CGI, writing, action, storytelling, there's so many things, but one thing above all else is the most important, and that is the main hero. You need to have a good main hero, so for this video, we're going to count down the top 10 most enjoyable heroes to watch. VEGETA from the Dragon Ball series. When it comes to anime, most heroes are good to a fault. They're often way too pure to be really interesting, and sometimes that works, like in Goku's case, and then sometimes you need a hero with a little bit of a bad side, so that's where VEGETA comes in. He started out as a bad guy, and he never really lost all of it. He's so much fun to watch because he's got such a sarcastic attitude, and he's not afraid to go a little bit farther than he probably should to get the job done. Saitama from One Punch Man. Saitama is just a regular guy who's trained himself to do extraordinary things. He doesn't actually have any superpowers, but he's made himself incredibly strong. The name One Punch Man is perfectly fitting, as he can defeat most of his opponents with just a single punch. He's trained so hard that he's gone bald, and he's trained so hard that fighting is boring to him, and the things he says and the way he fights make every fight very entertaining to watch. GOKU from the Dragon Ball series. If you want an iconic anime hero, you don't need to look any farther than Goku. He's one of the most recognizable anime heroes of all time, and it's for good reason. The only thing that matches Goku's strength and desire to fight for good is probably his appetite. Goku's always in a good mood, and he's one of those heroes that's just kind of fun to root for. He may not win every single fight, so it's always enjoyable to watch Goku fight. You never know what's gonna happen, and even if he does die, you know he's probably gonna come back in the end, so it's always a pretty happy ending. Roy Mustang from Full Metal Alchemist. The Full Metal Alchemist universe is full of unique and rich characters, and one of the coolest of all of them is Roy Mustang. He commands the power of fire with just the snap of his fingers, and he is a really good guy. He does sometimes maybe cross the line a little bit using his powers, but that's what makes him so interesting, and the fight scenes he's in are always fun to watch because all he has to do, snap his fingers, and he can target his attacks at just about anything he wants, and it pretty much renders the bad guys useless in any given situation, which is probably why he has less than a desirable amount of screen time on the show. RYUKO Matoi from Kill la Kill. RYUKO Matoi is a character that is basically just 100% satire. That's what Kill la Kill is, but because of that, her fight scenes are always so fun to watch. You never know what's gonna happen. There's so many different abilities and skills amongst these different characters with all of these crazy suits of armor and maybe the lack of armor, maybe a little bit too much cleavage here and there, if there's such a thing. The main weapon's a pair of scissors, so that just goes to show you never know what's going to happen, and it's always interesting to see where the fights are going to take you. Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is probably one of the best anime of all time. It's just a really great show, and it's mostly because of the characters. The main character, of course, being Edward Elric. He is on a mission to save his brother and to stop all of these bad guys, and he does it in a very unique way. We often have these heroes that are overpowered, and Edward really isn't. He's a really strong alchemist, and he's got all kinds of cool abilities, but you never know if he's gonna win. Mostly everybody in the show has some kind of edge over him, and they even make fun of him throughout the show for being so short and so small, but he does have the ability to win if he uses his brain and if he relies on his friends and his brother. So it's a really entertaining thing to watch him come up with these new and creative ways to win in these different situations, and he's got the ability to turn his arm into a spike and to throw giant spikes out of the ground at will. It's just a really cool character with a really unique fighting style. Natsu Dragneel from Fairy Tail. If Goku, Luffy, and Edward Elric had a baby, it would be Natsu. He uses his magical powers to fight evil, and he always has an appetite. He's a little bit less than intelligent, and he might be a little bit foolhardy, and maybe a little bit too willing to break things in his way to get to his enemy, but he's always willing to fight for his friends, and he's got the power to do it. He's got a nice variety of moves, and it's always entertaining to watch because you never know which move he's going to use or how he's going to use it in the certain situations. Kirito from Sword Art Online. Say what you will about the anime, but if you're a video game player, then you know that Kirito is one of the coolest heroes in anime. All of his fight scenes feel like they came right out of a really great RPG video game, a nice action game with the swords and the guns and the leveling up and the items and the abilities and the powers. It's always fun to see what happens in these fights, the way he fights with his friends, the way he saves his friends, and the way he uses his completely overpowered moves and overpowered abilities to save the day. It's always really enjoyable to watch. ERZA SCARLET from Fairy Tail. ERZA is probably one of the biggest badasses when it comes to female anime characters. Not only does she have a wide variety of moves, but she actually has a completely different set of moves for any situation. She can re-equip her armor into just about anything she wants, and I'm a sucker for really cool character designs, so she's easily on the list. She's got so many different looks and so many different fighting styles that it's impossible to not be entertained when you're watching her on the show. Luffy from One Piece. One Piece is one of those animes where you just really never know what's gonna happen next. There's so much stuff going on, there's so many different storylines and characters, and it's all ridiculous. It's all crazy, and it's all so much fun. And that's why Luffy is such a fun hero to watch. His fights are so dynamic, and they're so interesting, because every fight is different. Even if he hasn't learned a new move or something, it's gonna play out differently, and then he does learn new stuff all the time. He's got all kinds of different moves, different powers, different abilities. It's just really, really entertaining to watch. And Luffy's personality makes it even better because he's so pure of heart and pretty naive and even pretty dumb. It's really interesting to hear the conversations go back and forth between him and the bad guys, and then to watch him win in the end and to persevere through all of these other people with all of these crazy powers. It's never dull and it's always exciting. Alright guys, there's my list. Let me know what you thought about it. Let me know if there's any characters you think should have been in the list, and we can talk about that in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.